Welcome back to JB Reviews. I have two 2024 GMC Sierra HDs. Now this is the AT4X, this is the AT4, and we're going to compare the trucks. You probably can tell from this point of view that the AT4X obviously sits higher. So we're going to do some measurements today as well. I have my tape measure, I think. And yeah, we're going to just pretty much go around these trucks, show you the differences. Special shout out to Jerry Seiner, Buick GMC here in South Jordan, Utah. This truck is unfortunately sold. I just bought this one yesterday, and now we're just gonna hit some videos so you guys can kind of get some differences on these pickups. Should you buy an AT4X over the AT4? Let's find out. Here's the window sticker for the AT4X. Be sure to go through some of the options, but pretty much everything you're gonna see on this truck comes standard. And here's the MSRP and base price. Up next is the AT4. Base price is at the very top here. And here's the MSRP. As far as the front styling goes, you can pretty much tell there's some differences on both sides, but some of the differences don't really jump out at you. So let's kind of go through it really quickly. Number one, I do like that they use the Vader chrome for the AT4. Has a really nice appearance. It's a lot better than chrome, and this truck kind of has a blackout for the most part. Headlights, fog lights, LED, a little bit more of that Vader chrome down below. You can also see that there's some parking sensors down below, red tow hooks, and something that won't really jump out at you is the valance down below here. So it does help with the aerodynamics of the truck, and it should help with fuel economy. And also this truck does have that forward facing camera. The AT4X is going to have the same headlights and fog lights, tow hooks, forward facing camera. The only difference is you have a bronze color for the grille as opposed to that Vader chrome there. AT4X badge is right there, so it's pretty much in the same spot as the AT4 one was. Parking sensors up front, more of that bronze down below. And this color resembles what you've seen on the AT4X half tons. Forward facing camera, they do both have a sprayer to clean that camera off. But if you look down below, this is where the biggest difference lies. So you're gonna have more ground clearance on this truck because you guys can see here, as I said, you have that valance that sticks a little bit lower, and this truck does not have that. So you're gonna probably lose a little bit of fuel economy, apart from the tires that is, and the lift, without having that front little, I call it splitter, valance, air dam, whatever you wanna call it. I don't really know the actual name that the manufacturers use, but yeah. This just gives this truck a lot more ground clearance, and as we're down here, you'll see there is a larger skid plate that goes further back to really help protect the underbody of this truck. On the AT4, you do have some skid plates, but the front part of it is going to be plastic, and then that second part is probably finished in steel, but it's not as meaty as the one that you saw on the AT4X. As far as the top of the hood goes, nothing really changes for the hood scoop, and you still have that black trim piece on both sides. Now off to the side, one of the biggest advantages for the AT4 is you can have it in a 3/4 ton or a 1 ton, which is the 3500. You cannot get a 3500 1 ton with the AT4X. That's the biggest advantage that I see. And personally, I don't know how long I'm going to keep this truck, but depending on how much payload I have after I hook up my fifth wheel, that's going to be the deciding factor for me. But nevertheless, you guys can pretty much tell that the fender flares on the AT4X are a little bit more aggressive. They stick out a little bit more, so it gives it more of a wider stance. And you can really tell, like right here, just how different it is from the AT4. Also, check out the mirrors. You can see that the AT4X does sit slightly higher. And right here, the mud flap on the AT4 protrudes down a little bit more compared to the AT4X. So this one is gonna help with ground clearance, obviously, and it looks a little bit more aggressive. Now, I'm pretty sure at some point you'll be able to buy the fender flares for the AT4X and put them on the AT4. Both trucks have the availability to have power deployable running boards that you see here, and you can get the high clearance steps too. Painted trim pieces around the mirrors, and you have more of that bronze color, more of the Vader chrome for the AT4. And moving on down, I'm sure you guys noticed too that the wheels are slightly different. Let me actually move one of the trucks forward so you guys can see the wheels a little bit better. For 2024, GM did restyle the wheels for the AT4, and they did a great job. I like these wheels a lot better compared to the Denali and the Ultimate. And something else I like about these wheels, I don't normally mention this, but if you do clean your own wheels at your house, it's easier to clean behind the spokes with a long brush. Now, I will get back to the tire size here in a second, but let's check out the AT4X wheels. So these have a black appearance with a machined face. Personally, I don't really like these wheels. I wish they would have just gone with a complete blackout, but you know, I guess GM had to add a nice flair to the AT4X, and it has a cool styling to it, but it's not my taste in wheels. Let's talk about the tires. The biggest notable difference between these two trucks is the height. Now, you guys already saw the mud flaps are slightly different, but you can pretty much tell that the AT4X has taller tires. Now, let's talk about the ones on the AT4 first. These are LT 275 65 20, okay? So these tires are actually 34.1 inches tall, 10.8 inches wide. On this side, you have a 305 70 18, 34.8 inch tire in terms of height, and it has a 12-inch width. So these tires not only look taller, but they are pretty meaty in comparison with the AT4. And here's a better shot at the ones on the AT4X. Up next, I'm going to turn the wheels out so you guys can take a look at the suspension. One last thing about the tires. The AT4X has a Goodyear Wrangler Territory MT, so it has like a little bit more aggressive sidewall and tread pattern. And this AT4 has a Goodyear Wrangler Trail Runner AT. So again, a nicely attractive tire in terms of aggression, but not as aggressive as these Meteor Territory MTs. Now let's talk about the suspension next. This truck does have Rancho shocks, and there is no height difference between this and a regular Sierra HD. So you just get a little bit more off-road oriented suspension, which is available with the X31 package on every other GMC truck, I think, with the exception of the work truck models. But for the most part, there's not a lot of differences on the suspension. However, on this side of the house, this truck has the Multimatic DSSV dynamic suspension spool valve, and this suspension was tuned to go off-road. Not only that, you do have different upper and lower control arms, and you can really see a difference right here. So if you take a look at this one, this is for the AT4X. Here's the AT4, but you see where that ball joint connects right here? That's pretty much where the difference is on this side of the house. So this kind of protrudes down a little bit more to keep the, you know, geometry of the drive axle and all that in the right position. And here's the lower right here, and then you have this steering knuckle that's slightly different as well, okay? And then here's the steering knuckle for the AT4, and then that lower control arm. So you can't see a huge difference, but it's where that ball joint connects is where the differences are. So yeah, when you get the AT4X, you get a more aggressive suspension, and again, you see more of that Multimatic out back, and then more of the Rancho shocks. Now this is the 1 ton, so you're gonna have 5 leaks in the main pack with 2 overloads. You're not gonna get that with the AT4. And you can see where this bottom leaf has a little bit more of a gap between it. On this side of the house, you don't have as much of a gap between that lower leaf. More differences for the mud flaps out back, and then the front part of the fender flare is a little different too. but nothing's gonna be too different out back. Both trucks do have the standard multi-pro tailgate, and the AT4 has the availability to have the kicker sound system, but it comes standard with the AT4. Now my truck has the optional lights here that I'll never use, so that's available too for the AT4. Lastly, they do stamp AT4X on the front of the bed and AT4 for this truck. You guys can pretty much see that this truck does have a full-size spare with the wheel, and this truck does have a 342 rear. Now this does have electronic locking rear diff as well, and on the GMC AT4 you guys can see they have a steel wheel, and it's like an 18-inch wheel compared to the full size on the AT4X. However, 342 rear end, and this has an automatic locking rear axle. I'm not going to spend too much time on the powertrains. They did nothing different for the AT4X for either the 6.6 liter gas or this 6.6 liter Duramax. So this engine is going to have 470 horsepower, 975 pound-feet of torque, 10-speed transmission for both pickups, and the 6.6 liter L8T gas engine is going to have 401 horsepower, 464 pound-feet of torque, 10-speed transmission. Alright, so I'm going to measure the lowest part of the bumper right here. So here's where it's at. It is at 17 3/4 for the AT4X. As far as the AT4 goes, this protrudes down to 13 inches. Actually 13 1/8 if you want to use that. So 13 1/8. So let's go ahead and measure the front. We're looking at, let's use 44 inches. And, sorry, the wind is picking up today. For the AT4, 42 inches. So it's literally 2 inches difference there. Now, do you guys see how much lower the power deployable running boards drop down for you to get in and out? That's going to be good for the missus. Out back, we have that is 45 1/4 for the AT4X, and you're gonna have 43 3/4. The rear of the bed is at 59 5/8 for the AT4. And then the X is 61 inches. Lastly, I measured the rear of the height of the back of the roof there. 6 foot 10 1/2 inches, 6 foot 9 inches. So about 1.5 inches actually. And let's go ahead and finish off with the interior. I'll show you guys the payload, and that will end this video. As far as the interior goes, the AT4 is considered a Denali, because you have the premium interior with leather upholstery, 10-way seat, Kalahari accents with the stitching as well. It looks great. And listen, I don't care which truck you buy. It does not matter. They both look great. You have that black accent around the speaker grills right there, seat memories. Now here's the grab handle, finished in plastic. They do wrap this in a cloth material, and it matches the roof, which is black. This one does not have a sunroof, by the way. This is all finished in plastic here. Here's a look at the center console. It says AT4 right here. Let's go ahead and check out the X. This truck would be considered the Denali Ultimate. This is the Obsidian Rush interior, and the attention to detail is fire. You have red stitching, you have white stitching, you have white piping, great graphics right here, all soft touch, black ash for the accents for the wood, seat memories as you saw. This truck has a 12 speaker Bose sound. That AT4 there has a 9 speaker. Also 16-way driver and passenger seat. More of that white stitching, piping, red accents, massagers for both sides. And yeah, the attention to detail is phenomenal. You have a leather wrap for the grab handle. You have a suede roof. They also do the A pillars and the B pillars in suede. It just adds a really nice attention to detail. Sunroof comes standard. When you step inside too, you see more of that red stitching on the steering wheel right here. And then here is the center console. So yeah, that's the biggest differences on these trucks, is you have the more premium audio, seating, and this is real leather too compared to the AT4. But apart from that, everything else is pretty much the same. And even like over here, this is all finished in a soft touch. Down below here, this is all finished with like a leather with that white stitching. Trailer brakes are in the same spot. This truck does have this button, which allows you to put all 4 windows down at the same time. You have that locker and then downhill assist. The material is slightly different on this side of the house, but again, you still have the same setup. Downhill assist. Also, here's the trim piece on the side here. Out back, same premium setup for the interior. Here's the grab handle, and seat back pockets have storage. Heated outboard seats with USBs. Black accents around the interior for the AT4X. As I said, you can see the difference for this. You have that additional speaker up top here. All this is finished in a soft touch. Again, more premium interior bits. The back of the seats too, I forgot to show that to you. The back of the seats are different for the AT4X because again, this is the Denali Ultimate interior and you have a 16-way seat. So here's this one, and this is the AT4 again. The X does have a leather wrapped grab handle out back. You can see some of that suede on that B pillar as I mentioned. And then here are the seats, storage. Same setup. I wish they would have added ventilated rear seats, especially at this price point. But here's where I think the AT4X loses miserably. You cannot get max trailering on this truck. So if you get a 2500 AT4, you can get max trailering and you can get a 1-ton for the AT4. But gross axle weight rating out front is going to be 5,600 pounds, 6,600 pounds in the rear, and then here's the gross vehicle weight rating at 11,350, 18 by 9-inch wheels, and then here's the payload. 2,854 pounds. So yeah, this truck definitely does lack on payload because of the extra suspension, things like that. And then 18.5 conventional towing and an 18.1 for Gooseneck. You want to tow a bigger trailer? Go AT4. And that's for sure. Now as far as this truck goes, you have better gross axle weight rating. You have a higher gross vehicle weight rating, which is going to give you more payload. So 3,710 pounds. Now I've seen these trucks in 3500 form have like about 35 to 3,600 pounds of payload because this one doesn't have the power deployable running boards, doesn't have a sunroof, and a few other things are missing on this build, which means it is a little bit lighter. But 20,000 pound conventional, 21.6. Here's that yellow sticker. And then the wheels were 20 by 8.5. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If I were picking a truck again, I really do think I would probably go with an AT4 simply because I do like the fact that you can get more payload with the 1-ton. But hey, the AT4X is a great solid pickup. It does have great towing capacity, and the payload is actually decent for a 3/4 ton truck, especially with these types of options. If you were to look at a similar Ram, you'd be around like 1,700 pounds, and it doesn't have a lot of stuff that the truck has. But be sure to reach out to Jerry Seiner if you are in the market, if you'd like to order a truck. Let them know you saw the video. See you guys soon.